Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're sorry for this delay. May I welcome you all to the 14th General Thimayya Memorial Lecture. May I take a moment to request you to please put your cell phones on silent and please stand for the rendition of the school song. I would request you to remain standing thereafter as we remember those friends who have passed us by this year. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. This has been a difficult year. We've lost many close friends. We're particularly saddened by the untimely passing of our principal, Professor John Zachariah. He was a true friend of the lectures, and we owe to him the fact that we have been seamlessly having these lectures at Cotton's over the years. May his soul rest in eternal peace. On the brighter side, 2018 is a special year in some ways. It marks the centenary of the armistice, which has been celebrated worldwide with emotion and passion. You will be interested to know, friends, that this school has produced a Victoria Cross in the First World War. Captain William Leaf Robinson, the batch of 1910 of the Royal Air Force, who shot down a Zeppelin over London. Those of you who visited the Imperial War Museum in London would have seen his poster right at the entrance. We take this opportunity in the centenary of the armistice to remember those past pupils of Bishop Cotton and indeed all soldiers who have served in the war. There were 175 Cottonians who served in that war, and 23 of them were killed in action. 2018, friends, also marks 100 years since General Thimayya joined Bishop Cotton Boys as a student. We are privileged to be paying tribute to his memory through these lectures. You would have seen a photograph earlier this morning in the slideshow of the Chief of Army Staff, General Bipin Rawat, unveiling the statues of General Thimayya and Field Marshal Karyappa in Gonikopa in November 2017, a fitting recognition of two fine officers. These statues are in bronze and they stand at 7.5 feet, not quite as tall as some other statues we've been seeing of late. A museum dedicated to General Thimayya is also in the offing in Madikeri and should be nearing completion soon. We hope to make that announcement next year. Ladies and gentlemen, while welcoming you to the memorial lecture, may I now invite the captain of school, Periyakarapan Annamalai, to make his brief remarks.
Good morning, my fellow Cottonians, alumni, and friends. On behalf of Bishop Cotton Boys School, the Board of Trustees, and the students, it is my privilege and an immense pleasure to welcome you all to the 14th edition of the General Thimayya Lecture. We are all gathered here today to commemorate the memory of General Kodandera Subbaya Thimayya, a Cottonian par eminence. General Thimayya remains India's most illustrious generals and a Padma Bhushan awardee. He stands tall, perhaps tallest among the pantheon of generals. General Thimayya was a dedicated and professional soldier. He was a true leader with modesty and charm. Apart from the critical contribution to the security of the nation, General Thimayya's demand to be treated with dignity has helped many Indians hold their heads high. The lecture series is instituted to pay tribute to an exemplary Cottonian, Indian, and a human being by inviting distinguished old Cottonians to render keynote speeches on new perspectives, innovative ideas, and major initiatives of public relevance to old and present Cottonians, friends of the lecture, and well-wishers of the school. Over the years, this event has attained a special status in the hearts of all Cottonians, old and present, and has created a platform for young Cottonians to meet and embrace our school's greatest treasure, the alumni. The year's edition being no different. The agenda for this edition is very pertinent today with the city growing in size and population. It takes a look at the big picture by taking a step back into Bangalore's past and using it to draw a map for the future. The agenda for today is redefining Bangalore. Mr. Harish Bijoor is our guest speaker for today, and he is a much sought after public speaker who speaks to corporate audiences across the globe in the realm of innovation, motivation, people management issues, brands, marketing, and business at large. We look forward to hearing him today. I now hand the proceedings back to Aditya Sondi. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. We annually award the General Thimayya Medal to recognize contributions to public service by our alumni. On behalf of my colleagues C.N. Kumar, Lokesh Ahuja, Timothy Franklin, and Karan Joseph, I take pleasure in announcing that the General K.S. Thimayya Medal for 2018 is awarded to Rear Admiral Keki Pestonji. Rear Admiral Keki Pestonji, AVSM NM, is from the batch of 1955 at Cottons and had a distinguished career in the Indian Navy. He passed out from the NDA in 1958 and thereafter as Best All-Round Cadet from the Indian Naval Training Ship Tir before being commissioned in 1960. He was Executive Officer of the frigate INS Talwar that attacked Karachi Harbour during the 1971 war. This earned him a mention in dispatches. He was the first commanding officer of INS Godavari, which was the first Indian-designed and built warship of its kind that carried 2 Sea King helicopters on board. Admiral Pestonji also served as India's naval attaché to Bonn, West Germany. As the commanding officer of INS Betwa, he led the rescue of merchant ship MV Nandmayur off the coast of Goa. A keen yachtsman, he won the Indian Navy Best Helmsman Award for 2 years running. The Admiral was a member of the first Defense Planning Staff under the chairmanship of Lieutenant General B.C. Nanda. He was decorated with the Ati Vishesh Seva Medal for carrying out a study of the ammunition stocking policy of the Indian Navy and reducing the same without affecting operational efficiency. He has also received the Nav Sena Medal. Promoted to Rear Admiral in 1989, he retired as Chief of Staff of the Southern Naval Command, Kochi. We have a picture of his at the commissioning of INS Godavari with the then Defense Minister and later President R. Venkatraman on 10th December 1983. And we have a picture here at the investiture of Dr. Raja Ramana Padma Vibhushan as a Minister of State for Defense at Rashtrapati Bhavan in 1990. From left to right are Rear Admiral Ram Sagar, AVSM VRC-NM, the late Lieutenant General Jamil Mahmood, UISM, Dr. Ramana, Admiral Pestonji, and his brother, Mr. Pesi Pestonji. The interesting part is that they are all old Cottonians. We're very pleased. We're very pleased to have the Admiral with us today from Hyderabad, joined by his wife, Mrs. Zareen Pestonji, their daughter, Anahita, and their son-in-law, Deepak Pinto. To receive the General Thimayya Medal, may I invite on stage Rear Admiral Keki Pestonji. And to do us the honors, could I please request our patron, Air Marshal Osman, to come on stage, please. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I really feel so honored and happy on receiving this award. I've had a very fulfilling career in the Indian Navy, of which I wish to only mention at this point the commissioning of INS Godavari, which was the first fully Indian-built and Indian-designed warship of the Indian Navy. Now, what this really means, all the other ships that were commissioned for the Indian Navy had others like them, similar to them, built beforehand, so there were books and references available for the commanding officers to use. Whereas for Godavari, there were no references at all, because there was no other ship in the whole world, in the navies of the world, which was like this. So I was responsible for producing the documents and all the write-ups for INS Godavari. I was very fortunate at that point of time because the Chief of Naval Staff was Admiral Dawson, who particularly told me that I'm not to undertake any other exercise or any other drill with the Indian Navy except finishing all these trials as soon as possible, but completing all of them. So I think it was the year 1984, which I spent the whole year conducting trials of INS Godavari and writing up notebooks which will be used by all the future ships like Godavari that were being built. I think today we have 6 similar ships in the Indian Navy, and all the books for these have been written correctly, all the performance things have been written and enhanced correctly over the years. There's one more incident which I just want to mention here. During my career, when I was in command of INS Betwa, which was a training ship, I had the complete batch of cadets of that year on board for training. They were not distributed as the previous batches amongst different ships of the Indian fleet. They were all concentrated on board this training ship. And I went through a full-scale storm. And it was really a very trying experience for me and these cadets. But I'll say to their credit that as young as they were, they saw INS Betwa come straight through the storm, which we actually were in the center of the storm for about 48 hours or so. In the end, I wish to thank all the members of the Thimayya Foundation for giving me this award, and thanking every one of you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Admiral. You are a true Cottonian hero. And we do remember today Admiral Dawson fondly. He was a great friend of the lectures. He attended the lectures pretty much till the last few months that he was with us. And it's wonderful to know that you had served with the Admiral in your days. Thank you again, sir. Thank you, Air Marshal Osman, for doing us the honors. On behalf of the Trust, we have been recognizing former members of the staff with a certificate and check for rupees 1 lakh from the benevolent fund of the General K.S. Thimayya Memorial Trust. May I invite Old Cottonian Ambassador Ranganathan on stage, please, to felicitate our beneficiaries. 1985 and 1993, and a Rajyotsava Award winner, the first of our beneficiaries, Dr. Francis Samuel. Discipline, with a Sainik school background. He's still as imposing as he was back in 1993. At 86, it's a delight to have Dr. Samuel with us. His wife, Dr. Mrs. Pramila Samuel, also taught us mathematics, and we thank both of them for their rich contribution to Cottons. Ladies. We would request Dr. Samuel to stay on stage as we invite our next member of staff, groundsman from 1965 to 2008, someone who rolled out our cricket mats come rain or shine, served the school for a full 43 years, Mr. Penchalaya. Having served the school for 39 years as a carpenter from 1975 to 2014, Mr. Mahimai Das. During the year, we also had occasion to honor some of our very special former teachers and staff. In absentia, Miss Violet de Cruz, who was matron at the boarding from 1972 to 1988. She is indisposed and sends her best wishes to all Old Cottonians, especially the boarders from her time. Also in absentia, and this gentleman needs no introduction, Mr. Derek Brown. Sports master from 1973 to 1988, and also an Old Cottonian for a brief while. He is presently on tour and sends his best wishes to all of you. It's interesting to know that Mr. Brown served in the army and was recruited by General Thimayya to come and serve on the staff of Cotton Boys. We have great pleasure that we have with us the English and Social Sciences teacher from 1978 to 80, and again from 1985 to 1993 as junior school supervisor, Mrs. Indira Williams. Could I request Ms. Williams to please come on stage? Mrs. Williams was later principal of Baldwin Girls and had a very fruitful tenure at the school. Both her sons, Sunny and Anand, are Old Cottonians. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Indira Williams. We'd also like to recognize someone who was part of the maintenance staff from 1994 to 2017, Mrs. Kaushalya. And last but not the least, certainly someone who served the maintenance staff for 42 years, from 1972 to 2014, Mr. Francis. We thank all of you for your dedicated service to Cottons. And ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rangi. And to friends in the audience, if you do think up names of members of the staff who have served at your time and feel deserve recognition, please write in to us and we will do our best to acknowledge them. Well, now to the lecture, ladies and gentlemen. Harish Bijoor is eminently well known as a brand domain expert with a consultancy practice across the continents. He teaches at the Indian School of Business and has lectured widely in India and abroad. With books on branding under his belt, he is a voracious public speaker. He has clocked over 10,000 hours of public speaking. I'm sure today's speech will be a bit shorter than 10,000 hours, Harish. And has over 80,000 followers on Twitter. In other words, his is a voice to be heard. And as he believes in clean, understated, and ethical branding, and is also a Bangalore boy, it is only fitting that we have him articulate his vision for a new brand of the city we love. Harish belongs to the batch of 1979 at Cottons and went to Pakenham Walsh, purple and red forever. As his dad was on a transferable job, Harish actually had 2 stints at Cottons and was in Delhi for a while in between when he went to St. Columbus. We have a picture of his in school uniform with his sister Beena, who went to Baldwin Girls. Ladies and gentlemen, a great pleasure to invite on stage Mr. Harish Bijoor.
Well, let me start even as it assembles itself. First of all, it's an absolute honor and privilege to be invited here this morning to address the 14th General K.S. Thimayya Memorial Lecture. I wish to thank the trustees. I've been meaning to come here for the last 13 years, and somehow or the other, I've missed coming in. Finally, I'm here, if at all, only to listen to my loud, boring voice. I'm going to be talking to you today about Bengaluru redefined, but even as this assembles, maybe I have a few moments to really think of school and say that, it's a tremendous experience to be back at school, because I was here about 10 years ago, in the, or maybe longer, in the old school hall, for a particular function. But after that, this is the first time I'm walking into school, and the moment I walk into school, for me, it's a goose flesh moment, goose pimple moment, and feel quite like, it seldom happens when I listen to the national anthem and I'm standing at attention, singing it, it happens to me. And the other time it happened to me is with the old school song, which I haven't sung for a long, long number of years. And I think that's what a school is all about. A school is about memories. And when I talk about this campus, my memory is about my Wadi, Mr. A.T. Balraj, and many, many people, many, many names. I don't want to miss out on names, but these are names that come very quickly into the head. I haven't thought these names for many years. Mr. Nainan, who used to live close to the gate at one point of time, the main gate. Mr. Rodrigues, my geometry teacher, absolutely. Somebody who used to be a very tough guy, who used to live on top of the tower block, if I'm not mistaken. My class in the tower block, I used to be in the C section most of the time, and all the C section classes would happen there. Mrs. Sebastian, Mrs. Rukmani, and Mr. Shankar, and of course, Mr. Paramasivam, who would always give me 110 out of 100 in modern maths. Because there would be, 2 extra questions to answer. And I was very good at modern maths. Terrible at maths, but very good at modern maths. And these are memories. And I think it's a pleasure to come back to these memories. And I think we're all set now. So let me go. I'm going to be talking to you for the next 45 minutes on a subject called Bengaluru Redefined. And Bengaluru is the new nomenclature that you and I tend to use after the rechristening. What am I doing? I'm actually, back to school, and of course feels good. As I said, goose pimple moment, haunted by names that come back, selfless teachers who make you what you are. And that's what I want to tell the youngsters. Most of the time when we are sitting where you're sitting, you don't realize it, but the teachers who teach us, my God, their selflessness. And I don't think we're going to meet people of this kind ever after we leave the portals of school. Not in college for sure, and not ever after. So enjoy it while you're enjoying it. Full of fond memories, just don't go away, thankfully. So back to school is a good feel. Today, what am I doing? I speak on the subject that is very, very close to my heart. And close to my heart is all of 45 minutes. And I keep saying power corrupts, and PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. And to that extent, I'm a PowerPoint corrupted person, so bear with it, but I made them very friendly. I haven't made them the usual corporate presentation type. I made them very friendly so that all of us could enjoy it as we go along and also think simultaneously. I will focus only on a few issues because 45 minutes is too little for a city the size of Bengaluru, the city with the variety that Bengaluru has to offer, both in terms of problems and joys. I will not talk numbers. Purposely, I'm just avoiding all numbers because on a Saturday morning, numbers don't make too much sense. Every Tom, Dick, and Harish, anyway, has numbers today in hand, so let's forget it. But we'll focus on building an ethos of belonging. That's what I'm doing. At the end of these 45 minutes, I'm just talking about this ethos of belonging, which I think each one of us need to possess when we talk about a city. And Bengaluru is very close to our hearts. And it's close to our hearts because many of us have got what we have wanted out of this city. Many of us are what we are because of this city. And many of us have studied in this great institution called Bishop Cottons, which also belongs to this city. And when I talk about Cottons, I always keep thinking, which other school in this country has a club attached to it? And I know many members of the club are here, and nice to see your old familiar faces. I'm going to focus on why rather than the ways and means. The how is available off the shelf. You can pick the solutions off this shelf. The big issue is why. And most of the time we aren't able to solve that issue to say, why must we be interested in a city at all? Because many of us get trapped in our daily lives, in the work that you and I do, in the acquisitions that all of us want to possess, in the relationships all of us tend to build. But most of the time, we don't think enough of the city. Because at the end of the day, it's taken for granted. Must we take the city for granted is a key thought I want to discuss today, and maybe lead into the Q&A session, and maybe enrich it further with your collective sets of thoughts, which is so rich as I see around. Grateful for the quality of this audience. The big cobweb to clear is the why cobweb. Why must we be interested in a city? And I'm going to attempt looking at this stubborn mindset issue. How do we sort the stubborn mindset of wanting to do something for the city? The ways and means to do it is easy because it's a process-driven issue. For a start, I must get back to the subject and says, let's define a brand. It is sometimes important. All of us know what a brand is, but it's important for us to define what a brand is, just for a start. What is a brand? Most of the time, we tend to think it's a name, it's a symbol, it's a logo, it's a slogan, it's all of it. But for me, a brand is much more. A brand is all of that, but much more. It's a trust mark, and my definition is slightly different. About 14 years ago, I put together a definition, all my own, which is also the title of my book, and I simply say the brand is a thought, full stop. The brand is a thought. And people ask me, What more? I said, nothing more. The brand is just a thought. The brand is a mere thought. It's not a mere thought. The brand is a powerful thought. Bishop Cotton Boys School, the campus we are at this point of time, is not this physicality. It's not this extremely nice, comfortable auditorium. It's not the tower block. It's not the spanking new swimming pool. It's not you and I. It is the thought of Cottons. Because when you think of Bishop Cotton Boys School, what does it do to you? And guess what? This thought is a memory. And for many of us, the school is a memory to say that, hey, listen, my individual class, my individual sets of teachers, my individual sets of experiences, my individual days of punishment, my individual days of being in the NCC, if at all, etc., etc. If you look at it, the brand is a thought, a powerful thought that lives in our heads. And every head has a different thought of the same brand. So Bengaluru is a thought. It is not the physicality of the city, which is the infrastructure and everything else that is physical, but it is also the emotional. And to that extent, Bengaluru is a thought. And the thought is more powerful, more overriding than the physicality of the city you and I live in. And therefore, thoughts are important. And every mind in Bengaluru, every one of the 130 lakh people who exist in the city on a daily basis, with about 11 lakh people coming in on a transit basis every day, all of them included, have one different thought of Bengaluru. And that is Brand Bengaluru. The brand is an amalgam of thoughts of the 130 lakh people who live in Bengaluru. Not only that, it's an amalgam of thought of the 1.3 billion people who live in India who think of Bengaluru. For a Bengaluru person, the brand thought is intrinsic, and for somebody living outside, it's an extrinsic thought which impinges on Brand Bengaluru. Not only that, it is what 7 billion people plus 7.3 billion people maybe think in the world of Bengaluru when you think of Bengaluru. And guess what? Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be proud, happy to say that Bengaluru is a world thought today. Everywhere you go. There are lots of places people don't remember Delhi. Oh, ouch. That's sad. But they think Bengaluru, the tech capital of India. I'm not sure if we are, but they say we are the tech capital of India. The brand is a thought that lives in a person's mind, a very powerful thought, different people, different thoughts, and of the same brand. And the brand, much of the time, recently I was in Berlin and I was addressing a set of 60 and odd academics, and I was talking to them, and I was talking to them about the brand, and a lady gets up and says, could you, Mr. Bijoor, tell me, define the brand using an Indian word? Because, and Sanskrit is very, very rich in Germany. There are a larger number of Sanskrit scholars in Germany, possibly, who have published papers than in India. So I thought on my feet, and I said, ma'am, the brand is Maya. Maya. Maya? Yes, it is here. And at the same time, it is not here. And to that extent, the brand is not a physicality, it is a meta-physicality. Question. What is Kingfisher? If I ask you, what is Kingfisher? Of course. When I ask you what's a Kingfisher, the first thing you think of is possibly a bottle or a can of beer. Much of the time, yeah? Not you guys, not you guys. No, you can't. You're not allowed to think, okay? But those who are allowed to think will think of a can of beer. In fact, I wanted to put a picture of Kingfisher bottle, then I changed it to Red Bull because I said there are also people who are more responsible people. Yeah, okay. What is Kingfisher? Kingfisher is a brand most of the time. But listen, guys, Kingfisher is not a beer. It is a bird. The moment Dr. Vijay Mallya, who hails from the same city, is able to convince you that Kingfisher is a beer, the brand has arrived. And that's the power of a brand. You forget what the actuality is. Kingfisher is a bird, but you don't remember the bird at all. Okay? And now if I ask you, what is Red Bull? You'll now tell me it's a bull which is painted red. But no, all of us know the power of a brand. Red Bull gives you wings. So if you look at branding, branding is very powerful. Bengaluru is a powerful, potent thought in the minds of a large number of people. We did a generic study, and 2.9 billion people in the world know the word Bengaluru as a city which is housing technology in India. 2.9 billion, that's a lot of people, a lot of people. Believe it or not, there was a time when nobody knew what Bangalore was, except for us and except for our cousins who live within the country. It has happened. It is a brand. And the brand is omnipresent, it's omnipotent, it's omnipotent. You know, these are three big words. When was the last time we used these three words? We used it when we spoke God. I don't want to demean that at all. What then is the difference between God and a brand? God doesn't think he's a brand. Brands think they are gods. And that's the power of brands. Okay, ladies, gentlemen, my dear Cottonians, Brand Bengaluru. What is Brand Bengaluru? Brand Bengaluru is a power brand, as I said. It's liberalization's child. I want to take you back to 1991 and just about the point of time when liberalization was occurring in this country. You know, and I wanted to take you back to the campuses of Infosys, possibly, Wipro at a point of time, and many other campuses that emerged in Bengaluru. And these were campuses which came up out of the BPO hubs which had established themselves in Bengaluru, the business outsourcing, you know, processes that actually happened. 1991. And therefore, if you link Bangalore becoming Bengaluru, you have to trace it back to 1991, 1994, liberalization, new rules, new policies, Manmohan Singh, Narasimha Rao, and then finally to the city we are today. So if you want to blame it all on liberalization. Bengaluru today is not Bangalore. Bangalore was something else. Bengaluru is something else. Liberalization's child and many monikers. We have many, many monikers. Pensioners' Paradise, that was the first one. Then moved on to Garden City, very close to the pensioner's heart. Gardens, Pensioners' Paradise. PSU City. One fine day, the Nehruvian philosophy of actually creating, PSU centers, public sector units. HAL, of course, I was at a quiz recently, somebody said humped, HAL, these abbreviations which are very powerful. HAL, HMT, BHEL, etc., all became the PSU city. Electronic city, not electronic city, but electronics city. We used to be the hardware capital of India once upon a time. We need to reinvent that. BPO city. When all the Tata Sumos, which used to go up and down, ferrying, bleary-eyed people working night shifts, Qualisys, etc. And, of course, IT city, pub city came somewhere in between, okay? It became a pub city. Bengaluru today has 1,943 pubs as at 31st March 2017. And that's a large number of pubs. And that's the defining point. Why are you guys even smiling? Yeah, okay. Startup city. Startup city, yeah, you throw a stone today, you'll hit a startup. I mean, because in the old days, the joke was if you didn't have a job, you'd say you're a consultant. Today, if you don't have a job, you say, I'm doing a startup. Okay, no, I'm demeaning that moment. We have 11,019 startups as at last month end, okay? 11,019 startups in Bengaluru. Divide that by the square kilometer area of ours, which means that you take a stone in any 2.2 kilometer area and throw it, you'll hit a startup somewhere or the other, okay? So it means we are a different, and IoT city. I do a fair bit of work in IoT space today, and IoT city where, machine learning, machine thinking, artificial intelligence, AR, everything combining together to create something exciting. Many monikers. But a set of thoughts that are forever. There are a set of thoughts. Monikers come and go, but thoughts are forever. For instance, it's a liberal city. Bengaluru is one of the most liberal cities in India. I can stand up anywhere and talk about it, even in Delhi. All embracing. We're all embracing as a city. Everybody who comes here gets embraced. If you haven't been, you must wonder why. We tend to embrace cuisines which are fantastic. Bengaluru today has 49 active cuisines on offer through restaurants. I didn't know there were 49 different types. And these are not Indian cuisines. They're from all over the world. Okay. If you look at it, the number of languages that we speak, phenomenal number of languages. 44 actively used languages in the city. 44 actively used languages in the city. In Delhi, actively used languages are 6. In Mumbai, actively used languages are 21. Bengaluru is 44. And those 44 languages do not include Java, C++, Hadoop, and Phantom, okay, if I leave those out, okay. A Bisibelebad city is what I call it. Bisibelebad, people tend to ask me, define what is Bisibelebad. And then I say, and they say, is it a khichdi? I say, no. Khichdi is very different. Bisibelebad is Bisibelebad. And unless you tasted it, you won't know the difference between it. We are not a Ragi Mudde city, but we're a Bisibelebad city. Tolerant, completely tolerant. Believe it or not, even at the peak of the intolerance debate which occurred in this country, I think we have showed the best of tolerance levels come way on go. And I think we deserve a clap for that. Mild city. Mild city. I recently coined a logo for a t-shirt saying, stay cool, you are from Bengaluru. What's the meaning? Bengaluru guy does not get ruffled, okay? Meant to be. I don't know. This is positive and negative because sometimes we are so mild, people come and trample over us. Cultured, completely cultured. Look at yourselves, look around, look at any corner in the city. And I can go on, but I can't go on, otherwise I'll do my 10,000 hours of Aditya, okay? Some jolt points then. So I'll just go a little bit quicker on this. The city faces acute congestion. All of us know that. The city demands a lot of water, demands a lot of road, a lot of clean air, and more than what we have. Obviously, because this city is 130 lakh and growing every moment. And if you young people work hard later, we'll reach bigger numbers soon. The challenges faced by the city are myriad and an amalgam of this and that. This and that. Lot of challenges. The city is acutely polarized, however, in wealth. Okay, we have the very rich and we have the very poor. Okay, I'm going to just throw 2 numbers at you in a while on that. Consumption is overt and obscene. We like to eat and drink brands all the time. And if you look at it, there are lots more issues. We live in a polarized city, but it's a brand life. We live in a brand. Bengaluru is a brand. We live in a brand. We are a subset of the brand Bengaluru. And we have common brands, become brands ourselves. We have all become brands ourselves in our own way. We sometimes think like brands. Some of you talk like brands. Some of you, tend to use brand language quite nicely. All good. At times we become inanimate because of that. Because brands have a positive and brands have a negative. Brands positive is that brands tend to, contribute to consumption. And brands negative is that brands create consumptiveness, which often ignores everything else. And I think that is the thought I want to discuss a little today. Have we become a little inanimate in this brand-led world? Have we become uninvolved at times in this completely brand-led world? Lifeless at times in this completely brand-led world. Cynical at times in this completely brand-led world. Polarized Bengaluru is a reality. 130 lakh people in the city. And the next 82 lakh, as I call them, are the dispossessed or people who don't have enough. Out of 130 lakh people in Bengaluru, 82 lakh people are at the bottom of the pyramid. Ouch, ouch. Ouch, I didn't know that. Where do they live? Who are they? Don't see them. Come on, we are so prosperous. Even the street dogs have plenty of food to eat. Not really. I think there are 2 Bengalurus. The haves versus the have-nots is a reality. The possessed versus the dispossessed is a reality. Therefore, when we talk brand Bengaluru, we need to be sensitive to the other Bengaluru, which I call the next 82 lakh. Okay, 130 lakh minus 82 lakh. That is the number we are talking about. The top versus the bottom. Those with access and those without access. Do we think enough city? That's the question I want to talk about. And there are 2 cities for sure. The 82 lakh city and the 130 lakh minus 82 lakh city. One is mine and the other is theirs. And if I run a quiz now, there'll be 2 different quizzes. And I wanted to, but I don't have the time to do it. But there would be a quiz which would say that who is who. There are some things we just don't know, and there are some things we just know too well. And we are a homogeneous set of people out here, and we need to accept heterogeneity that exists outside as the ultimate reality for the future of Brand Bengaluru. Homogeneity is not a reality. Heterogeneity is the reality. And we'll talk a little about it. How does this world deal with polarization, which is acute? You know, I'll give you an example of polarization. Italy has polarization. And I was in Italy some years ago, and many years ago, and this was some 8 years ago or something. I love coffee. How many of you love coffee? Yeah? Okay, yeah. Coffee is a lovely drink. I was in Italy. I was in one of the prefectures close to Milan, walked into a coffee shop and asked for a cup of coffee. And I was at the counter. I had to pay before, and I looked at the guy, and I was about to pay the guy, and I said, "Can you give me a cup of coffee?" And the guy looks at me and says, "Sir, would you like to suspend a coffee?" What? I said, I've spent so many years in corporate life, never ever really suspended a human being. You want me to suspend a coffee? He says, suspend a coffee is a concept. The moment the concept came up, my antennae stood out, and I said, I want to know what this concept is. So the guy looks at me and says, "Sir, you are a rich man." Ouch! When somebody tells you you're a rich man, you say, "Shub shub bolo." I mean, you know, don't say such things, because don't cast your dirty eye, aspersions on my richness. I looked at him and said, "I'm not a rich man." He said, "Sir, you come from India, and India is a rich country." I looked back at him and said, "India is a poor country, and the only rich person is of Italian origin." He didn't understand it. He didn't understand it. He didn't understand it. So then the guy looks at me. The guy looks at me and says, "Sir, the concept is this. Italy is a poor country. You're sitting in a cafe. People have bladders and bellies. You have a bladder, you have a belly. All people have bladders and belly. All Italians have bladders and belly. You have a rich bladder and belly into which you can put coffee into it at my outlet." And I looked up at his board. A small cappuccino costed 360 rupees equivalent. I'm still a total desi. When I travel, I walk up to a shop, look at the board, immediately convert the lira into rupees in my nano Shakuntala Devi mind, and I say 360 rupees, I'm bulking. You can spend 360 rupees for a coffee. An outsider cannot spend 360. An Italian cannot spend 360 for a coffee. I said, "So what?" A guy looks at me and says, "Sir, the rich must take care of the poor." How simple is that? What a simple statement. I said, "Okay, so what?" He says, "Sir, if you walked in my outlet with a friend of yours, would you buy him or her a cup of coffee?" I said, "Yes, I would." Imagine you walked into my outlet with this person. I said, "Imagine? Okay. Give me money for 2 coffees. Now I'm getting worried. Am I getting conned in Italy? And he says, "Give me for 2 coffees. So I say, "What will you do? 360 rupees plus 360 rupees converted into lira?" He says, "I will give you 1 coffee. What? What happens to the other coffee? I will suspend it." What is suspend? You'll waste it? No. He's got a whiteboard facing the, outside window. And on it is written cappuccinos, lattes, bagels, Italian pizzas, various kinds of muffins, etc. And the small tally marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. He says that is the status of coffee which has been suspended, or any item which has been suspended by rich people like you. I said, "Okay. What happens?" He says, when a poor man, a poor Italian walks in, he can demand for any one item from the board. And when I give it, I erase that tally. I said, "Wow, nice. The rich must take care of the poor." That's an inclusive practice, and that's from suspended coffee from Italy. Now, when I look at it, I asked him the true blue desi question. I'm a desi. I asked him true blue desi question. I said, how does he know that I gave him the coffee? Because I'm not there. First of all, I'm wondering whether he'll give the coffee at all. How does he know? He says, he tells me something which my grandmother used to tell me donkeys years ago. He says, "Sir, your right hand must not know what your left hand gave to whom." And how do we do charity? How do we do charity? We want to be on the Harun list of the generous. And we want to be on Fortune. We want to be on the best magazines of the world when we're charitable. So I said, "Guy, this is a terrific thing." Then I asked him the next true blue Desi question. I said, listen, what will I get in return if I give it to him? Obviously, come on. If I give him 360 rupees, he says, blessings, blessings. My God, takes me back to karma. He says that do good, kainat concept, which was made famous by Deepika and Shah Rukh Khan starer. Kainat, you put good things into the kainat, good things will come back to you or your children or your grandchildren. Just in case you're demanding and say nothing good happened to me, they'll say it'll come to your children or grandchildren. Guys, that's Italy, and that is suspended coffee. And guess what? I brought that model back, and we're creating, across 11 different corporate organizations, we have created a suspended orientation in N numbers of categories. Because believe it or not, there are 7 billion people in the world. If I put them on a pyramid this way, the top 2 billion are the privileged, the bottom 5 billion are the poor. 2 billion people have to take care of 5 billion people to create consumers of them in the future. How will these 5 billion become consumers? They don't have money. They will become consumers only when they are enriched. The role of the 2 billion people on top of the pyramid is to enrich the 5 billion people at the bottom of the pyramid. And after 20 years, the 7 billion pyramid, which will become 8 billion pyramid, is going to be all equitable in distribution. Not equitable, it'll always be inequitable, but it'll be richer than before. So what is the meaning of that? 2 billion people have to take care of 5 billion people. Equation is 1.5 billion people or 1 billion people have to take care of 2.5 billion people. So one person has to take care of 2.5 people to actually bring them up from the status. Bengaluru has similar problems if you look at the 82 lakh versus 130 lakh number. Must we wait for polarization to get out of hand, or must we act really now before a revolution occurs due to polarization? Let's think some issues out and maybe churn some issues out as well as we go along. Some city hashtags. How many of you are on Twitter? Any of you on Twitter, Facebook? It's hashtag, Instagram. Hashtag generation is out here. So I'm using hashtags, forgive me, just to keep the definitions of Brand Bengaluru together. Outsourcing and the city. And outsourcing in the city. Must we outsource the city? Can we? Can we outsource the city and its needs? We do. We go and vote at an election once in 5 years. Okay. City is too important to be left to city managers, as we have realized. City managers don't do a good job. Governments don't necessarily do good jobs. Organizations which are run under governments don't necessarily do good jobs. Unless you have shadow organizations which shadow them, like we have in Bengaluru. We have 11 shadow organizations which shadow the work of governance. City management is too left to city managers. We vote in once in 5 years, and then, we forget the city. We are 24/7 citizens. We are citizens every single day. Our involvement needs to be more than once in 181 days. Okay? And I think that is an issue which is bogging us. Yes, we don't think we can give all our 181 days for the city, but can I grab 5 days out of 5 years of a citizen in Bengaluru to look after the city in some way or the other and harvest it into 130 lakh people? And that's a lot of man days, and that is an effort which some are attempting. QSR in the city. These I'm going to go very quickly, laying thoughts for our discussion, essentially. Hashtag QSR in the city. CSR is passe. If you look at CSR is corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility typically in the old days used to be checkbook philanthropy. I have signed many checks, you have signed many checks, and off goes the check, and we are not too concerned what happens to it. Today is not the day and age of believing in corporate social responsibility. I don't believe corporate social responsibility. I don't believe it's the mandate of a corporate organization to be in corporate social responsibility, because the corporate organization is responsible to stakeholders, and stakeholders are concerned about profits and value, and nothing more than that. CSR is passe, checkbook philanthropy is dead, ISR is in. There's something called individual social responsibility. We do it in a large number of companies. In Bengaluru, I go up to a company and say that, I want money. Will you give me 2 crores of rupees for a particular cause, which is city related? After they give me the money and they say, in principle, yes, then I say, can you give me the time, 5 days of your people, all your 18,000 people into 5 days for 1 year? Ouch, that seems the tough call. and then I take those 5 days. Those 5 days are essentially the 5 holidays of the people. They don't come from the corporate organization, they come from the person. That individual, the money is paid by the corporate, the individual puts his time, and when an individual puts his time, time is more important than money. He audits the cause, he participates in the cause, and she actually looks after the cause with a greater degree. I think that's the way to go as well. Individual social responsibility with skin in the game. You must put your skin in the game, not your money. Money is easier than skin, okay? Because there are 2 important currencies. There are 2 currencies in our pocket. One currency is called money, and money comes and goes. Whereas the second currency is called time. Money can be topped up. You can earn it. Time cannot be topped up. We cannot go to a shop and say, can you top up 1 year of my life? And therefore, people value time more than money. And this ISR is all about harvesting the time of people for the city and the city causes, not money alone. Hashtag development in the city. What am I talking about? Firstly, what is development? What is development? I think the development answer has got hijacked. Is development all the big buildings we put up, all the swanky stuff that we put together? The killing of our lakes is that development we are building on our lake beds. And lakes, our lakes are vanishing. If you really look at it, we're talking about 311 lake water bodies in the city, reduced to 62 lake water bodies today. But then our lakes come back. Lakes never forget. Water has a memory of its own. Water knows where it must go. Even though we're built on those water bodies, when it rains very, very heavily, water goes into the same old place. Water does not think and say, oh, this is a building, this belongs to such and such a person, this is a gated enclave. Water doesn't know that. Water has its own memory and it'll go back. Guess what, guys? It's very, very important to appreciate what development is. And I think cities such as Bengaluru need to revisit this development debate. Are we developing or are we regressing into something else? The encroachments of our Raja Kaluways, our waterways, our stormwater drains, many of them have been built upon, okay? About 8% of them have been built upon. The generation of garbage that is heavier by the city, okay? In 1952, the total grammage of garbage developed in Bengaluru by one home was 80 grams. 80 grams of garbage, 80. Today, each home in Bengaluru generates 2.7 kilograms of garbage. So the meaning is that we are developing too much of it. The young must question development more than the old. The young must look at development with a different perspective than the old. Is development equal to visible progress? There's something called visible progress. Everything looking shiny and swanky and etc. Is that development is a key question you and I need to think about. Is development a paradigm of its own which needs to be broken? Hashtag pollution in the city. That's yet another issue. Both cosmetic and real. How many of you are bothered by pollution in the city? Any kind. Please put up your hands. Yeah. How many of you have breathing problems? I know it's a personal question which relates to air pollution. Water pollution problems? Anybody? Yeah. Sound pollution problems? Yeah. I'm one of them at this point of time. Sound pollution. That sound one, I had the largest numbers of people. We're such a city which keeps honking all the while, right? Okay, pollution is both cosmetic and real. The cosmetic pollution is visual pollution. All the hoardings and signages that you have out there. Recently, BBMP did something to stop hoardings for a year. And suddenly I saw lovely trees, the puis and all the flowers. And suddenly I saw heritage buildings, which we forgot existed behind them. Air pollution and burning garbage and leaf is a big, big issue here. Water pollution is a big issue. Belandur is not a lake, it's a pollution. It's not a lake, it's a pollution. Noise pollution and our senior citizens, why each one of us. Visual pollution of the outdoor kind. When you come into Bengaluru, you think, oh, it's a city of smiling film stars' faces. It's a city of people brushing their teeth. It's a city of... there's much more to it behind those hoardings, and I think we've been looking at them now. Hashtag traffic in the city. How many of you think traffic is Bengaluru's problem? Yeah? Okay, thank you. That's a real large number, man. Real large number. That's the standard excuse to come late to assembly, right? Okay. Traffic in the city. By the way, it's not a new problem. Even when there was no traffic, it was my excuse. Old days. The big T word is traffic, if you really look at it. Who hasn't been in this marmalade? The traffic jam is a reality of our situation. We did a recent study. What do you think of when you think of Bengaluru? Okay, and we did this across 46 cities in India. And the top answer was 82.6% responded traffic. What? When you think of Bangalore, and I said, a brand is something that a thought. A brand is a thought that lives in a person's mind. So when you think of Bengaluru, you think of traffic, which means that Bengaluru is traffic. Sad. Is the traffic signal the next brand insignia of Bengaluru after the Vidhan Sauda? And traffic sense is inversely proportionate to education. We are the most educated city in India. We have the largest numbers of educated workforce in India as of today, even as I speak. But traffic sense is inversely proportionate to education. Have you lived the Bangalore life? I think you have, with the footpath rider, the guy who will ride on the footpath. Huh? Okay. No Cottonian ever rides on the footpath. Okay. With the footpath rider, and what I call the traffic salmon. The traffic salmon who rides in opposite direction of the traffic. Okay. These are good things. All the best. And all of them have the best ID cards, the best access cards on their belts from the best companies. They're educated. And the per capita wheels in the city is enviable. DigiLiving, hashtag DigiLiving in the city. And what is hashtag DigiLiving? Bengaluru is 89% digital in terms of number of people. Let me prove it to you. How many of you use WhatsApp? Please put up your hands. Please. Oh, here it's 100. It's 110. Mr. Parmasavan's 110 must be given here. If you look at it, Bengaluru is 89% digital. Only 11 people in Bengaluru are outside the ambit of digital. Anything that's WhatsApp, Facebook, Insta, etc., 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 etc. Bangalore is 89% digital. How much are you? You know that. The rise of digital is the reality. Okay, and the so-mo-clo-litic era. I coined this many years ago. So means social media. Mo means mobile phone, which you hold in your hand. Cloud is everything sits on the cloud. Litic is analytics. We do everything with analytics. Added to artificial intelligence, added to AR and IoT, and Bengaluru is the city to really talk about the cutting edge, bleeding edge city on digital. Digital bleeding edge. But is it good or bad? Who is your neighbor most of the time? If I ask this question, if you live in an apartment most of the time, or if you live anywhere, we don't know our neighbors as much as we used to know in the old days. The machine life is more real than ever today. The digital begins where your body ends. You sitting there, digital begins at the end of your palm when WhatsApp starts. And WhatsApp ends where the machine ends, where it begins at the other end. I think every 100 years, there is an ism that dominates our lives, and the ism for the next 100 years and the current 100 years is really digitalism. And I think we cannot run away from it. A city cannot run away with it. It's a new passion. It's a new religion, even if you look at it. Digitalism is the religion forever into the future, and smart tech, which you hold in your hands, in your palms, is the one that is going to take us forward. Digital disruption is here. I put out logos out here. Many of you won't recognize any of these logos, I know. Digital disruption is all around us. Literally, all of you are on them already. The ideal marketplace to buy anything is Amazon. You want to buy something, the best place to go. You want to buy a phone charger, the best place to go is to go to Amazon or Flipkart and buy, right? You don't go shop to shop and compare and buy anymore. The ideal money is digital cash. All your UPI, Paytms, everything that you and I use. The ideal way to see a tiger is on Discovery Channel. Ouch! How sad is this? I went to Tadoba about 20 days ago, spotted 3 tigers, and spotted them for exactly, 3 minutes, and felt very good. Came back home, sat in front of the television, and watched the entire life of a tigress, filmed by Mr. Nallamuthu, and filmed over 2 years and showcased in 30 minutes. Sad, but true. Ideal media buyer is a machine. It's no longer a human being. The ideal matchmaker is Tinder, apparently. The ideal ticket... Why? How do you know this at all? I mean, I'm shocked. I must use my new baritone and talk to you. Okay. IRCTC.co.in is the world's largest ticketing outfit. None of us go and stand in railway queues to buy tickets. We buy it online or air tickets. The ideal counselor is Tony. You have a psychological problem, you go to Tony. Tony is faceless, and therefore you open up much more than a full consumer. Consultant. Digital promises to disrupt everything ahead of us. Every city has a digital sweep to it. Every city needs a digital interface to it, and Bengaluru has that as well. Digi living today is a promiscuous life. You know, my phone sleeps with my refrigerator. What's the meaning of that? My phone is linked to my refrigerator. I have a small chip in my refrigerator. The moment 24 eggs become 2, the chip orders from Nilgiris, which is the shop downstairs, 22 eggs, 24 eggs. And the chip pays for it because I've entitled my chip to pay from my credit card. Of course, I put a limit of 1,000 rupees because even I don't trust technology enough. 1,000 rupees. The eggs reach your home straight out. So my phone sleeps with my refrigerator. My refrigerator sleeps with the grocery store because my refrigerator is connected to the grocery store guy's phone and he gets the order. My grocery store sleeps with 40,000 customers who come to him, okay? Because he's got customer data of 40,000 people, okay? My customers sleep with credit cards. The credit cards are linked to every customer. And if I know your credit card, I know what you did last summer. Totally. Some of you. My credit card sleeps with my bank. Every bank has a credit card, and the bank's data interacts with the credit card data. See what's happening to data. Massaging better and better stuff happening. My bank sleeps with ICRA, which is the credit rating organization. Okay? And ICRA has a large database. ICRA sleeps with my insurance company, okay, because it wants to know what my pattern is for my actuary. My insurance company sleeps with my car because all my car companies are related to insurance companies. Totally, data moves up and down. My car sleeps with Tata Motors because it is a Tata Motors car, let's say. My Tata Motors sleeps with Aadhaar because when I go to buy a car, I have to give my Aadhaar. I mean, you know, my God, what's happening? Data, digital, everything is happening. My Aadhaar sleeps with my PAN card. You remember we were told, link your PAN card to Aadhaar. And we linked it, and then they said, don't want. Yeah. My PAN card sleeps with my jeweler. I go to buy jewelry. I have to show my PAN card to buy jewelry. And my jeweler actually sleeps with Facebook. And Facebook sleeps with Cambridge Analytica. Ouch! 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 Ladies and gentlemen, digi-living is a reality today. So think. No one knows. Many of us don't know. Only 2.1% of people in India know what's happening to their data. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Think, who do you sleep with really? Impatience and the city. Hashtag impatience and the city. Okay, I'm going to go quicker now because I'm going to run out of time soon. So, yeah, another 7-8 minutes maybe. Impatience and the city. Hashtag, hey, the iGen is here, guys. This is the iGen. This is the iGen. Young people are impatient. Are you impatient, yes or no? Yeah, you're saying, when is this guy going to stop? Yeah. Listen, young guy, impatient. iGen is here. iGen is impatient generation. In the old gen is a much more patient generation. Whenever we went up to our boss at the end of the year when promotions were announced and I didn't get promoted, and he'd say, be patient. And all of us said, nice, we'll be patient. Young people are not patient at all. Young people are very impatient. I'll tell you a quick impatient story. This is a story of my son, who was 14 then. He's older now. He went to school. He stood for the election as a sports secretary. Came back in the evening. Accidentally finds his dad at home in the evening. Dad looks at son. Son looks at dad. Son looking depressed. Dad goes up to him and says, son, winning and losing is a part of the game. Because I thought he lost the election. 14-year-old, if any of you have a 14-year-old son, don't like dad coming and using baritone voice and saying, son, winning and losing is a part of the game. They don't like it. He pushed my hand away and he calls me Appa. He says, Appa, I have not lost. Because young people don't like to lose. Older people is a different thing. Young people don't. I said, what happened? He said, election happened in the morning. Results are not announced. Now I got upset. I sat him down and I told him, come sit with me. And 20 minutes, I gave him gyan on patience. I said, you have to be patient. Your school doesn't have an EVM. He says, no. And then I asked him, when are results being announced? After 4 days. Now I'm also getting slightly upset. But I spoke to him about Mahatma Gandhi, what Gandhiji had to talk about patience. My 14-year-old son does not emote with Gandhiji. The only Gandhiji he emotes with is Rahul Gandhi at this point of time. Then I spoke to him about Swami Vivekananda ji, whose 150th birth anniversary it was at that point of time, and spoke to him about Swami Vivekananda ji had to talk about patience. My 14-year-old son does not emote with Swami Vivekananda. He comes from a generation which would rather emote with Swami Nityananda. At the end of 20 minutes, after telling him patience is important, he looks at me and says, Appa, tell me one thing. Appa, tell me one thing. And this is the message of the young. Appa, tell me one thing. Why should you be patient when you can be impatient? Why be patient when you can be impatient? And that is the young generation. The entire city managers need to understand the people of this city are young. 63.4% of the people of Bengaluru are below the age of 35. 63.4% of the people. We have to manage the city for the young. The iGen is here. There's a dichotomy here. Personally, we are very impatient, but professionally and public life, we are very, very patient. I wonder why. Okay, we tolerate a lot of things. Hashtag sensitivity in the city. We need to be very careful here, my dear friends. Sensitivity. Are we sensitive to the city? Are we a sensitive city in the first place? What is personal space? Where does personal space end and where does public space begin? In recent years, we've had debates on what you must eat and what you cannot eat. In recent years, we have had debates on what you can wear and what you must not wear. What is it going to be next? We need to be respecting personal space and public space, and I'm proud to tell you, Bengaluru is one of the 2 cities in India which has stood up in terms of being sensitive to personal preferences of people and has respected it. What is personal space? What is public space? Where does one end and another begin? In terms of food, drink, dance, garbage, religion, jingoism, everything. Where does one end and where does another begin? Hashtag garbage and the city. The biggest problem ahead is garbage. I told you the numbers. Why must we transport garbage? You know what we do? We transport garbage. We create garbage in our homes. The garbage is not segregated into dry and wet. In some areas it is. The garbage is put onto a van, small van. Small van takes it to a dump, dumps it there. Big van comes to dump and takes it from dump to Mandur, which is on the outskirts. It's a village. Let them suffer, yeah. Huh? Guess what, my dear friends? We cannot outsource garbage, and we transport garbage. The garbage van goes full one way and charges money from the BBMP, comes back empty, and also has billed in the amounts that need to be billed in. So if you ask me, transportation itself is a sin for garbage. What you generate, you must handle. Every home must handle the garbage that you and I generate. If I generate 2.6 kilograms of garbage, I need to be responsible as to how I'm going to sort that out. And that sorting out is very important. We must create something called garbage guilt in the city. Garbage guilt. We create a lot of garbage. Go back home and see how much garbage you and I create. And we must create guilt to say all those empty packets, all the wet garbage, everything that's unnecessary also going into it, and it rots and creates ill health for all of us, if not for the people of Mandur and other areas around the city. Building garbage guilt in the city is important. I'll give you, do I have time for another? Oh, I have time. Sorry. I will not ask you as yet till I come to the stop point. There's something called the Slow Food Restaurant in Brighton. And, this is a way of creating food guilt. Food guilt. The restaurant has created food guilt. I was traveling from London to Brighton. In between, I saw a long banner. It says, the world's first slow food restaurant. Slow food restaurant. I'm very used to fast food. All of us are used to fast food, the McDonald's of the world and the Domino's of the world. And I'm wondering, what is slow food? So I walk in there and the guy looks at me and says, yes, sir, you're welcome. But do you have 3 hours for lunch? 3 hours for lunch? Who has 3 hours for lunch? Well, I said, okay, let me try it out because it's a concept. So the guy welcomes me in. I walk in there and he says, sir, this is your hostess. There's a very nattily clad young lady with a basket in her hand and with all kinds of implements in another pouch, and she is my hostess, and she says, sir, are you vegetarian or non-vegetarian? I'm non-vegetarian, so I say non-vegetarian. So she says, would you like to take your vegetarian pick first? I said, yes, I will. Where is the menu? There's no menu, sir. We have gardens. Large acres of gardens. You just walk out and we grow different things. Everything is organic. So she takes me to the radish patch, the cucumber patch, etc., everywhere. And I go, and I land up there and I'm hoping that she will dig up something for me because it's fresh and say, I'll have radish. And she says, please take it, sir. What? She's not digging it up for me. If you want to eat radish, you take a spade, dig it up, and see what radish looks like. For the first time in my life, I saw how radish grows. Dug up 3 hefty radishes I dug up. Then she looks at me very politely and says, sir, will you eat all of them? Of course not. I won't eat 3 large radishes. Then I said, no, I want only 1. Then she says, sir, would you kindly put it back? Because it grows back. And guess what, guys? Because of my greed, I took out, and my excitement, I put it back in, and I understood how radish grows. Then she took me to chilies, this, that, etc. Came to the non-veg selection. Oh my God, she asked me, are you red meat, white meat, or fish? And caveat was, if you want fish, sir, you'll need another extra hour because, they aren't catching the bait so well today. Ouch! I have to catch my own fish. I have to see the fish struggling at the end of the rod. I have to catch it, cut it, chop it, gills, fin, etc. Cut it, take out the insides, and then give it to her. Ouch! I won't go further. That's creating food guilt. Equivalent of 12,260 Indian rupees for food guilt. 1 meal. But then, we are a tolerant city, my dear friends. Our tolerance levels increases with every passing year instead of decreasing. That is my worry. We are becoming too tolerant. Tolerance is, but tolerant about taking all the flack that the city can give you is a bit of an issue. And that's a problem as well, if you look at it. Our intolerance level is totally elastic. Bengaluru faces challenges, if not worse than the rest of the cities. Our biggest problem is threefold. One is societal apathy and cynicism. We do not participate enough. We are reasonably cynical. My message to young people, we need to be totally non-cynical on issues. Societal selfishness. I live in an I, me, myself, and my family of 4.5 culture. Okay? I wonder why I said half, but my family of 4 culture. And I, me, myself is the first circle. Second circle, my family of 4. Third circle, my locality. Fourth circle, my city. The fifth circle, India. The sixth circle, the subcontinent without Pakistan. The seventh circle, the cosmos. Yeah? We don't think cosmos. There are countries which think cosmos. We think I, me, myself, and my family of 4. I think that's where we need to climb from societal selfishness out. And outsourcing it all. We want to outsource it. Oh, I have elected a government, I pay my taxes, they jolly well do their job. Doesn't work, yeah. Doesn't work. Not my experience. Rude phrases all. I know, they're jolts, they're rude phrases, but I think it's our duty to be rude at times to ourselves. Attempting a solution means cleaning this mindset cobweb of ours, of saying those 3 issues. A city is about its hardware and its software. Hardware is the infrastructure and software is the people. The people are more important than the hardware. So hardware will come and go, but people are people who will have to think up solutions of how to make them come and go. The software is the people, and it's about us. The problem is us. The solution is equally us. If the problem is us, the solution is equally us. Important point to note, you become what you watch. You become what you watch. You become what you eat. You become what you read. You become what you breathe. You become what you drink. You become what you tolerate. You become the city. And eventually you become the city because you tolerate it all. So watch out. If you don't impact the city, you become the city. Do you want to be the city? You don't want to be that. And how do we bind the various stakeholders? In many ways, businesses, which I look at, the government, society, the NGO movement, and academia, all of them are together. My suggestion is, do not forget, fight societal mindset. Society is going to be selfish. There's something called, don't fight that mindset. Instead, go with the grain of selfish society. I mean, there's something called cynical society, which is selfish. Go with it, but create selfishness for positive reasons. And reap the selfish mind and achieve societal goal. How does it work? Two ways: get inclusive or get excluded. Get inclusive or get excluded. The selfish need a selfish motivation. Give you one example. Give us this day our selfish motivation. What is that? Collections on an airline. We would do work for an airline. Airline had a charity scheme. They'll keep envelopes in the pocket, and you could leave charity back. Their collections used to be X. Then we started something saying that every month there'll be a lucky draw on that, and the collection went up to 46,000x. So if you really look at it, a motivation sometimes, the selfish motivation comes. An inclusive city program can use selfish motivation as well. We live in ghettos of the rich versus ghettos of the poor, and sad but true, sad but practical. And guess what? Being practical can achieve stupendous results. Selfish motivation, example, education. I think, your kid will fly to the US, who will handle the jobs here? We have to give jobs to the others out here. Example, garbage, if you look at it, and the dengue mosquito. This is my favorite analogy. The dengue mosquito, the Aedes aegypti, does not know whether you are rich or poor. It comes and bites you. How many of you have had dengue ever? Please put up your hands. God forbid. My God, you guys. Okay. God forbid we don't get it. They don't distinguish between the rich and the poor. So how do you avoid dengue? By ensuring that there's enough hygiene around in the city, in the poorest of poorest areas, to take care of it. Poverty, we need to adopt a radius, insulate your surroundings. In conclusion, the last point that I want to make is cities must prioritize, right? The big question, what is important? Please answer that question. What is important? Put our weight behind what is more permanent than what is temporary. Think of it this way: what is more permanent, what is temporary? The people and our greed is temporary. We and our greed is temporary. We want to live in buildings, we want to do this, that, etc., etc., etc. Our greed is temporary. What is permanent is what sustains life. The air, the water, the heritage, the culture, the dance, the music, and more. I haven't spoken about heritage. We are not too concerned about protecting our heritage. That is another problem. View. That's a mouthful. And in parting, I just want to say the following thing. I must say that I am grateful to Bishop Cotton Boys School. I am grateful to Cottons for creating the mindset that each one of us Cottonians possess, the ability to think the right and look at the wrong and avoid the wrong also as attributes. School is my clarity, and I don't think, particularly my young friends, we don't get this clarity anywhere else. Whenever in doubt, there's just one thing that has led me. I mean, I've been in doubt all the time. I'm in doubt every day, okay, like each one of us may be. Just this one thing that told me, the way. At the end of the day, so tell me, where shall I go? To the left, where nothing's right, or to the right, where nothing's left? On, straight, on. Thank you. Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Harish. We're going to rethink Brand Cottons and Brand Bangalore after this. We'll request you to stay on stage and take a few questions. We have time for about 10 questions. As your hands go up, my colleagues will come around and give you a counter, and then we will follow 1 to 10. Question there at the back, here. We'd like to see the students ask a couple of questions too. The question here. Question back there, Chakra. That's 4, that's 5, 6, 7. Here, Kiran, here. Where was it? Here, row 2. The gentleman here, yeah. So you will each get a counter with a number on it. Have the folks here got their counters? And there are 2 hands up at the back as well. Kiran, back there. Back there and back there, please.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Counter number 1. Could you please stand up, identify yourself, and ask a brief question, please?
Hi, morning. Aditya and team, once again, congratulations on a fantastic lecture and 14th one and counting. So, my name is Rahul. I'm from the ISC batch of 99 Pettigrew House. Thank you for a great lecture, sir. Enjoyed it. There was one slide that talked about the evolution of Brand Bengaluru from the pensioners' paradise to the garden city and now to the traffic city. Where do we see us going as a brand going forward? We've obviously taken various avatars and from the IT capital, which has been quite long-standing, and now the negative connotations are also taking place. So what is the next, what would you see us branding ourselves for the next 5 to 15 years? Positive and the negative.
Thank you, Rahul. This is an interesting question because, what next is something that one needs to peek into the crystal ball of Bengaluru and say, what next? The obvious solution seems to be back to the Vedas, back to the good old ways of doing things, back to the way we were. When I look at it, society has a way of moving from the good to the semi-good, to the bad, and back to the semi-bad, and back to the good. So I think, a full cycle is what we're going to come. But how are we going to come to that full cycle? By push and shove or by volition? That is the key question. So eventually Bengaluru will want to be the pensioners' paradise once again. If not that, the city of gardens. If not that, the city of lakes. If not that, a city which is friendly to the people's health. Because health is going to come by very, very soon. There are two kinds of nations in the world. One discovers health first and wealth later. And the second kind of a nation is one which discovers wealth first and health later. So I'm taking the same analogy to Bengaluru. Bengaluru is discovering wealth first and will discover health only later. And I think eventually we'll go back to the good old ways of doing things, the good old ways of living in a clean environment. But it should not happen by force. It should not happen like it's happening in Delhi. Okay? Air quality is bad. Schools have got air quality holiday. Wouldn't you like that? 3 days of holidays, and we don't want that in Bengaluru, for sure. So I think it's creating those positive pathways to a better Bengaluru. I think we'll come back. Some way or the other, we humans have a lovely way of rediscovering what is good. We never go bad. Thanks, Rahul.
Yeah. Counter 2, please. Yeah, the boy at the back there.
Good morning, sir. Kunva Modi, I'm in the current ISC batch, 11th grade. The question which I have is, I guess many people do have the question that Bengaluru just developed very fast. Like, Bengaluru wasn't a planned city. People say that Mysore was actually a planned city, and Mysore was supposed to be in the place of Bengaluru. And hence the garbage problem, the traffic problem, because the city wasn't planned. What's your thought on that?
Good question again. Which house?
I'm from Pope House.
Pope, okay. Okay. Grudgingly, a good question. If it was PAC, I would have said something else. Okay. And now the thing is, you're so right. You're so right. The comparison occurs quite often at a fair number of debates to say both belong to the same state, Bengaluru and Mysuru. But look at Mysuru, it is much more planned. It was rated as the cleanest city in India at one point of time, 3 years ago. It's got a terrific system of governance, waterways, preservation. Somehow Mysuru had the blessings of the Maharaja in a big manner. Mysuru also had the blessing of vast space. Mysuru had the blessings of very successive sets of great administrators, and Mysuru did not have one thing that Bengaluru has, which is greed. Okay? We have a certain greed which at times tends to dig our own graves. We tend to do much more with the very limited resources that we have. Now, that has been a problem. Planned city, yes, Mysuru is a planned city. Planned Diwan, time, Maharajas, everything else that we go back into history and look at. Bengaluru also started with that. But Bengaluru went berserk. Bengaluru had a definition. It should not go outside the ambit of these 4 pillars which were constructed. But then we moved. We moved from Kempegowda to Devegowda. We moved from an era of a certain degree of planning to a certain degree of positive movement towards enhancing the monetization of the city. One important thing as an answer to your question would be, don't think of monetizing the city. When you monetize too much, you have nothing but money. Mysuru has not monetized too much for sure. Thank you for that lovely question. Thank you.
Count to 3, please. Yeah, at the back there.
Good morning, Mr. Harish, and congratulations on an excellent lecture. We were very privileged to listen to you today. I'm Shivdev from 1973 ICSE batch, Elphick House.
Okay.
My question is, Bangalore has been hyped. Bangalore is, of course, a very big brand. But in Karnataka state, why is everything concentrated only in Bangalore? Why has the industries not been, industrialization or development happened in other parts of the state? Why is it such an exclusive thing, and the other parts of states have been really kind of neglected? That's the reason there's so much of migration, and that's why we're bursting at seams.
Absolutely. It's such a focused point to say that, when you have development, why must development not be divided across the state? And we have so many places around the state. If you ask me, I think, that has been an error of commission. And the error of commission occurred when the early planners within the Bengaluru context sat together and said, Bangalore has got enough space around it, and we can go right up to Anekal and beyond, and let's give out these outer areas to the IT end-to-end services companies. And I think large tracts were given to each one of these companies, and these companies prospered in the surrounding areas and brought to Bangalore today's prosperity. However, the mistake was that, the followers of those IT companies, people who came after that, we have a total of 411 or 415 IT companies operating out of Bengaluru geography as of date. But then there were 2. Everybody decided that I need to be where the magnet is, because I need to poach people from an Infosys or a Wipro or a Tata Consultancy Services, and I'm going to create an ecosystem where people will walk across the campus and come into my campus, because there's a great degree of movement of people from one to the other. Later day planners tried to develop Mangaluru and tried to develop Mysore. But even Mysore is not developed to that extent. I think, training facilities happen in Mysore, but then actual work facilities haven't really taken off in such a big way. There are many magnets, and this is the disaster of Karnataka, the way I look at it, because, Karnataka is so large, there is a money divide between the North Karnataka and South Karnataka. The development of North Karnataka has been left awry for a long period of time. Must be spread out, must be ideally done. Again, educational institutions proved to be hubs which gave people. Now, in Belgaum, there is an educational institution which can give me engineers. But the engineers who pass out of Belgaum don't want to stay in Belgaum. They don't want to live near Goodshed Road. They want to live in Marathahalli, because they all want to come to Bangalore. They all want to come to Bangalore because in Belgaum, there are 2 pubs. Those pubs aren't exciting enough. In Bengaluru, I told you a number of pubs there are. Do you understand? People just want to come to the city as a magnet, and I think this is the disaster. We need to be developing counter magnets. Very valuable point taken. Thank you, sir.
Count to 4, please. Yeah, the boy here.
Is Elphick Lodge still around? No. Okay.
I'm Dhruv Baheti from the IC batch, the current IC batch, and I'm in Elphick House. Okay, so my question was on the topic of uplifting the 82 million in Bangalore and the 5 billion of the world. What are your views on the universal basic income structure of economy that's been rising in popularity? And I do believe it has shown potential to elevate the parts of society that we're trying to. And if you do not agree with that view, or if you do not want that implemented in our society, what economic structure would you want to see in today's society?
Very intelligent question, very in touch a very connected question. I mean, you're obviously connected to the world, the way each one of us needs to be. Now, the thing is, this works. The universal basic income is a philosophy, is a theory which works in some parts of the world. It's working beautifully in Norway, Sweden, Denmark. It's working in the Netherlands, okay? And I would really call these to be the most developed parts of the world, okay? Where they've discovered the real and shed the unreal altogether. So if you look at it, will it work in India? It seems a very, very tough proposition. Will not work in India. In India, the policy changes that you need to make towards running towards it are humongous. Small policy changes take tremendous efforts, and they don't get implemented with as much of vigor if you look at it. There's another philosophy which says that people must be paid as per the calories they expend, okay? Now, that'll be tough, which means that, a techie sitting in an office and playing around with Hadoop and Phantom is going to get paid less than the watchman who is actually guarding the gate and who's walking up and down, etc. These are philosophical thoughts and ideas. But a lovely thing to do would be to travel to these countries and understand how beautifully they've implemented it. But even in the Indian context, education, public schools versus private schools, the best education we get is in private schools in India. Public schools don't have good education. But go to Delhi and see the Delhi example. I will not take the name of any political party for obvious reasons. But go to Delhi and see the implementation of public education today. And go and come back and say that, you know what that is? That's called, I would call it, acute nationalization of public education. Acute nationalization. It's nationalized education. They're government schools, but they give you better than private schools. Education, facilities, everything that comes by. We should have two things. Acute nationalization at one end, and we need to have acute privatization at another end. Acute privatization we already have, because all our schools, all our private hospitals are privatization. This should occur in two areas. Acute nationalization, acute privatization, acute nationalization with low-cost education but best quality. Acute privatization, best quality education at best prices. Even milk more than what is necessary. But have a Robin Hoodization philosophy. Yeah? You rob the rich and take care of the poor. And it's possible in two realms. One is education and the other is health. The health care sector is a big, big issue we need to address. Thank you for that question. Elphick.
Count to 5, please. Do we have count to 5? Yeah, Rangi, of course.
It has been such a brilliant speech that far from having questions, one is full of compliments. So thank you for really waking up our conscience over a very, very wide range of issues. Incidentally, I used to belong to Pettigrew, so I hope you have no animosity. Now, you've talked about so many things, and to say that one has absorbed it would be totally wrong. However, there are 2 or 3 things which I'm wondering, which I hope can be done through education and all that you said, especially your last statements now. And I'm talking of individual social responsibility. How do you inculcate that at the level of education? I would say even at the level of home and parent and what the influences and so on and so forth. You talked of nationalization of education, etc., etc. I would say that as far as Bangalore is concerned, how are we going to have a campaign for sensitization? From garbage to driving. Now, in driving, there is not the slightest consideration or courtesy for the other fellow. And one would imagine, and people are prosperous. It's a prosperous city. And it's amazing the number of two-wheelers. But has that young two-wheeler man ever been told that if you're so much as polite and considerate to the other fellow, it'll be damn good for traffic at the whole? So this again, one can go on and on. But my main purpose was not only to congratulate you, but to hope that having spoken to such a bright audience, you will really create the sensitization that's required, which will be nothing terribly miraculous about Bishop Cotton's, but it will be Bishop Cotton's sterling contribution to a better Bangalore. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Coming from you, it's totally valuable. And I take your point totally in terms of sensitization. And I think it would be a wonderful opportunity for me to be a part of the group which will create this kind of sensitization. We have very senior minds within this room. If we can form a small clutch of people, a group of people, as you have suggested, to actually put this together, I think the most important thing, I think the seminal need of Bengaluru is this sensitivity. And what better place to create this sensitivity is to start on it than in school. Because I think, it will take time, but I think we need to start somewhere or the other. Otherwise, 20 years from now, we'll still be talking the same. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Count to 6, please.
Thank you, sir. I'm Yash Khanna, Pattern Watchers Captain this year.
All right, at last. Yeah.
My question is, so nowadays when I talk to my parents, grandparents and other older people, they often tell me this: Bangalore was better than Bengaluru. Now we all talk about a society where everyone should take care of each other. My question with specificity is, what can we take from Brand Bangalore to implement in tomorrow's Brand Bengaluru?
Okay. You set me thinking, and I have to think before I answer. Obviously, you're from Pack House, so... Okay. Good question again. Thank you. If you look at what is good in Bangalore and versus what is not so good in Bengaluru, I think the start point is the fact that, Bangalore was not so congested at all in terms of people wanting to be here. Now, is that a solution to say that we don't want people to be in Bengaluru at all, people should go away to other places and settle all over? It doesn't happen. We have the brilliant quality of good air. I'm looking only at the basics. We had good air. I think, can we get back good air in Bangalore? That's important. We had good water. Can we get back good water? And before Parthenium, we had very little in terms of disease of that kind. I think we need to revisit some of those old issues. At the same time, not clutch on to issues which are only sentimental, but really look at things which are practical, which are real, which can get implemented in the new context. Buildings. Vertical living is the only solution for big cities because the horizontalization is not occurring because it can't occur. But the point is there any other way of creating horizontal cultures? Even as you grow vertical, horizontal living is all about relationships. Vertical living is about lack of relationships because those relationships don't occur in similar spaces. This was an eminent thinker called Carl Zizi, who actually wrote a paper on it several decades ago. Can we create the kind of involved culture in Bengaluru where everybody is involved in Bengaluru and not just 11 organizations which look after, shadow governance structures in Bengaluru? Even today, I think we are building a heritage of these organizations. The oldest organization is about 6 years old now. And we see a lot of active work going on. Again, it's a question of what is real work and what is talk. So we need to be able to walk the talk completely. But I'm still not happy that we are doing enough of it. So can we revisit? The good aspects of Bangalore are all there, but they are all natural and they're permanent. Only the permanent aspects, which I stated in my presentation, are really what we need to focus on. And Bengaluru used to be about the solid, the permanent issues. Bengaluru is progressively moving from the solid to the liquid to the gas. A brand is three things. It has a solid avatar, which is its real avatar. What it is, I am what I am. The second is liquid. It is a little bit of a this and that, a little bit of the solid and a little bit of the gas. And the third is the gas avatar, gaseous altogether, saying, we are this, we are that, we are, we've reached this. You see all the numbers coming to us at the national level. So we need to be careful. Build on the brand solid, do a little bit of brand liquid, avoid brand gas altogether. Thank you.
7, please.
My name is Aravindan. I was formerly working for Nepal Hospital, Bangalore. Thank you for your wonderful lecture, sir. In my area, the BBMP worker, the third standard or fourth standard, uneducated, he is collecting the plastic waste and burns. The uneducated is leading our lives at present. We are all educated, I am moderately educated. So I have approached BBMP through on. I have told, dangerous situation. Our health is getting spoiled because of we are breathing the toxic gases. They have given a response. You have to contact one person by name. My question is, when I have raised the point, instead of acting, they asked me to contact him at the postman. If I contact any unethical, powerful person, he is living with a kind of thugs so that they can threaten. Now, Bangalore is very tolerant. We should not be cowardice. We should be very, very courageous. So, educated should lead. And finally, uneducated is lead.
You'll have to ask your question, please.
This is question I am telling you.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
the point is, we should be tolerant at the same time. That's what.
Absolutely, sir. I'm in total agreement that we need to be tolerant and intolerant. The key issue is that, when an individual complains and it goes to an organizational body, there is a bureaucratic, handling of it much of the time. We have been demanding a single window sorting out for burning garbage and dry leaf. Both happens in Bangalore in a big, big way. Dry leaf is burned, garbage is burned. Some of the best institutions in this country, government organizations, government institutions burn their garbage and burn the leaf in the city. And obviously, you come from the medical sector, you understand the harm that does happen. The solution to it is simply this, that I think we need a lot of shadow bodies which will, take leadership on each of these issues. So we have, with the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, we have a shadow body which actually needs to be written to, and that, I agree totally with you, the buck must not be passed back to you, it should be sorted. It must be sorted. There is an ability to do that if you approach the KSPCB instead of the BBMP. Actually, BBMP itself should do it in the first place. Thank you.
8, please.
I'm from 1967 Elphick House. Let me congratulate you on a beautiful, fantastic speech.
Thank you, sir.
It was very good. You've obviously studied Brand Bengaluru very well. There's only one point I'd like to ask upon. What do you see the future of Bangalore is because water is killing us? Let's be frank. We have robbed water equivalent from the Kaveri. Bangalore is the only capital city situated 86 miles from its water source. Right? Only capital city. And we have robbed the other 3 districts of their water through the tankers. With that kind of an issue, how do you think you could, or Brand Bengaluru should concentrate on developing water? Because as one engineer told me, sir, up to the ring road, parvagilla, adadmele devrigadi.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. And with our attitude of, Sami, solpa adjust madi, how are we going to get out of this? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Water is certainly one of the biggest issues for Bengaluru. Unless we develop an alternative source for Bengaluru, Bengaluru has to dry up. In the sense that water will find its own level, in the sense that populations will suffer, and suffering populations will not want to be in the city. Ouch. That is the negative way of looking at it. The positive way is to really create other sources. Now, water wars are a reality of this country and the state, and between the states, and between the districts in the future. So I think, this is a very, very tough call to take. But there's one issue, groundwater of various kinds, which had not been harvested. Artesian wells, which provides a very rich resource for Bengaluru, the kind of topical that we have, has not yet been explored. I think unless push comes to crunch, and unless we start facing acute water crisis, people will not look at it. We also have the 0 day approaching, we were told, in terms of the day when there won't be water in our taps. And Bengaluru is listed as one of the cities on that. Very relevant question, sir. I think we need to think very, very deeply about this issue.
Counter 9, please.
Thank you, sir. I believe I speak in behalf of all the students here when I say that we are very grateful and thankful to hear your enlightening speech. My question is regarding how you said that you do not believe in corporate social responsibility. So there's this region of Bengaluru specifically, industrial region. My question to you is how ISRs will help in this region, whereas CSRs could have a much bigger impact than these industrial regions.
Yeah, good point. Very good question again, because in India we tend to say that we collect from one area and apply in another area. The central taxation system, in which we have very small percentage of participants, itself is testimony of the fact that this is the way we do things. We collect taxes from a small number of people, we collect taxes from one area and apply it to somewhere else. And that is the reality of a nation which has disparities the way we have. I'm trying to fight against that, and I'm trying to suggest that local effort must come. Money will come from everywhere, but effort must come from the local area. Because unless you put in your own effort, if Peenya does not put in its own Peenya effort, it's going to be taken for granted that effort will come from everywhere else. Money will come the way it is. We cannot change that. That's the way it's going to be. But in terms of effort. So corporate social responsibility, checkbook philanthropy can continue at the top level, but at the bottom level to audit it, because we have data. My data on CSR says that if 100 rupees is sent out on CSR, the actual money that hits the ground is 39, okay? Which means that 100 minus 39 gets wasted in supply chain. And I'm not talking corruption here. There's zero corruption in CSR money. Supply chain, the way it comes, the administrative structure, the cost of flight tickets, the cost of travel, the cost of administering it, the cost of audit, the cost of the entire cost. So if 100 becomes 39, there's a serious issue of that money, which means that one corporate rupee is equal to 39 paise, which is not a great thing to happen. If, however, people of the local area put their skin in it, if Peenya people can put their skin into it, if Peenya can have a robust body which looks after implementation of this, they put in the effort and the money continues to come. CSR and ISR can go hand in hand, but my personal belief is ISR is the future. Thank you for that question.
Counter 10, please. Yeah.
My name is Ravi, and I am from St. Edward's, Shimla. I moved to Bengaluru 60 years back. Bengaluru was a beautiful city then, and now also it is a beautiful city, which you have already expressed, and I totally endorse your views. Well, mine is more of a compliment to you rather than question. Out of the total population of 1 crore 30 lakhs Bangalore, 82 lakhs are not well-to-do and 48 lakhs are very well off. How strange it is that the number of mobiles in Bengaluru are more than 1 crore 30 lakhs. And so many people are addicted to mobiles. Jobs are available, people are not willing to work. Why is it so? This is one. Secondly, Bangalore in certain ways is moving behind. Every week, every month we find something. Bangalore is known for pubs, eating joints. But unfortunately, of late, music is not allowed in so many places. Music for everyone is a life. It's a life of a person. Why is it so? Why are we going backwards? We are discouraging tourists to come to Bangalore. And so far as the question of garbage is concerned, everybody talks about garbage. Your Excellency, Mr. Harish Bijoor, you are a very competent person. I wish you could form a team consisting of cotton boys school and cotton girls school and solve the problem of garbage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you have made a very brilliant point on the mobile connectivity. And that seems to be the tragedy. If you look at the active number of mobile phones in this country, we have just touched the 1 billion phones in the country, okay, for about 1.3 billion people. And in Bengaluru, you're saying the penetration is large, which is true. In Chennai, we have 211 phones for every 100 people. So which means that they've got 2 phones. Oh, don't laugh at it. If I ask you, how many of you have 2 connections? I mean, how many of you 3? We can go on like that because it happens. But the entire city having 2 connections seems to be a big way of looking at it. So somehow roti, kapda, makan, telecommunication. We have come to that. Not even makan. It's roti, kapda, telecommunication. Not even kapda. Maybe roti, telecommunication, kapda and makan. Maybe, that seems to be the ordering of things. Somehow there is a feeling to say that, people need to be entertained. If people are entertained, they will not focus on the right issues, in terms of mobility, in terms of mobile entertainment issues, etc. Mobile is a big item which causes for the laziness index of a nation, and that's been proven in the United States of America on a study over 40 years. They proved it that mobile telephony is what created for the laziness of a large number of Americans because everything came streaming onto their mobile handsets, handphones, etc. Avoiding that, I would like to say that when it comes to music, I think, what's happened is completely unfortunate. But there seem to be 2 issues there. One is the householders in Indiranagar who seem to be living in those spots find this to be terrible in terms. And that is lack of planning. Why did you first of all allow pubs to be amidst houses in the first place? You must have an entertainment district in the city, just as you have a central business district, you must have a central entertainment district. Why one central entertainment district? You must have 8 in the city. So that, and each of these need to be outside of residential areas. We haven't done that. These are fire hazards. Many of our pubs in the city are the biggest fire hazards you can ever walk into. And I think we need to be tackling all these issues. These problems will keep coming at us, but I think it all boils down to planning. And I think that question about Mysuru and Bengaluru, which came out, points towards that as well. Thank you, sir, for that lovely contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. That does it with the 10 questions. Anil, would you still like to ask a question? Sure, we'll have one exception.
Sure, sir.
Anil was captain of school, so we can't turn him around.
House. All the more reason.
Anil Thakur, 53 to 63, Pack House. I'm looking to the young children, school boys here and girls, and I live in this area around this premises of schools, Bishop Cotton Girls' School, Boys' School, Baldwin School, etc. So my directive, because you have provoked my thought, the young people have to take over the management of this city in their very simple ways. I watch, after school closes here, I watch students getting out of the schools. I see them sitting on scooters and watching with their parents, and the parents are going down Hayes Road, which is a one-way road. I see children coming out of the gates, they're eating toffees, I see them throwing paper around. I think children, school children, Cottonians especially, should take control of the cleanliness, should guide their parents into following traffic rules, so the buck begins with us in Cottons. I would like that message to go.
Absolutely, sir. And that's quite a nice closure to the entire session, where I would say not only the young, but each one of us who are older than you, we need to take the onus of making the change. I go back to Gandhiji. be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your appreciation for Harish Bijoor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harish. Please stay on stage for a while. We have a little present for you. Could I ask K.C. Belyappa, grandson of General Thimayya, to come on stage and felicitate our speaker. Thank you, Belly. Thank you once again, Harish. And you may have noticed that we've presented Harish with the Paul Fernandez print of Bishop Cotton. I believe Paul is here. If you are, could you please stand up and be recognized? A round of applause for Paul Fernandez. Friends, we have high tea after that. We're going to take a moment. Sorry, Aziz. Please. Thank you, Aziz. That was Wing Commander Azizur Rahman, batch of 56, if I'm right. 58 and Elphick again. Pope House. Pope and Elphick. Okay, interesting. We want to take a moment before we break for high tea. Sorry, you'll have to wait, Chief. We want to recognize our patrons, Admiral Shekhawat, former Chief of the Naval Staff, who sends us his best wishes. Lieutenant General S.K. Jaitley. Tim, if we could have the slide on, please. General Jaitley was slated to be with us and took ill just 2 days ago, must be the wretched Delhi Air. And of course, Air Marshal Osman, who's with us today. It's a great honor to have him with us. Could I request Air Chief Marshal Fali Major to please present our patron with a token of our affection. Thank you, gentlemen. We also want to thank the management of both schools for their cooperation. On behalf of the boys' school, I'd like to thank the Vice Principal, Dr. Mrs. Rubin, all the staff who are here, and of course the boys. Could I ask the School Captain Perry to come up front and accept a bouquet from Mrs. Naeem. Mrs. Naeem, as you know, taught at Cotton's for many years, and it's such a delight to have her with us today. Thank you, Mrs. Naeem. And I wonder if the captain of the girls' school is here. Yeah, could you please come up front? No? Any prefect? Yeah. Ration. Thank you, Divya. That about wraps up things. Folks, of course, we remember our past patron. It's my mistake. I can never forget Air Marshal Mally Wallen, a great support, an old Cottonian of the batch of 1944, and may his tribe increase. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you to please, before we stand for the national anthem, let me thank you all for being here. You've been a brilliant audience. Old boys, friends, and of course the veterans, we greatly value your participation. Thank you very much for your support. I'm sorry, there was a rather morose rendition of the national anthem. Maybe once again sing it impromptu with some gusto. Jana Gana Man. Bharat Bhagya Vidhata, Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha, Andhra Uttar Banga, Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga, Uchchal Jal Sitaranga, Tava Shubha Naame Jage, Tava Shubha Ashish Mange, Gaye Sab Jaya Gata, Jana Gana Mangala Dayak Jaya He, Bharat Bhagya Vidhata, Jaya He, Jaya He,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.